What is this place?
You're in the best place in the world. We're in a vault.
Come along with us on an idle ride through the latest science fiction and fantasy shows, movies, and video games. Welcome to Idle Ride. I'm Marcy, your host, here with my co-host and chosen brother, Paul.
Y'all ready to be idle? Because I am.
Yeah, especially after this election, right?
Oh, boy.
Idly depressed. Anyway, and we're here to talk about episode 5 of the Fallout Prime television show, and it's titled The Past. It is interesting that they always are just doing the something
Yep.
for the title.
Ghouls, the end, the beginning.
I mean, it makes sense, I guess, that they titled this The Past, but there's not a lot of direct connections, I feel like. So before we get any deeper in, go ahead and rate and review us if you like our show on Apple Podcasts or any other podcast so that other people can hear us.
Just going to say, if you have listened to everything that we've put out so far, congratulations. This is your 30th episode.
Yeah, 30 episodes. That's kind of a milestone. I mean, I know that we're a little intermittent here and there, but it's been really fun. And I can't believe that's like at least 30 hours, maybe a little less, maybe a little more of content. So that's fun.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah.
To break this episode up, I'm going to do it a little different this time and just go through the Vault 33 / Norm / Chet timeline piece, because it's a very small portion of this episode, and I feel like it's just kind of very informational. There's some funny things that happen, but they move pretty quickly, I would say, through this part of Norm becoming suspicious about what's going on in Vault 33 and what all the 3 different vaults that are connected together mean, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they gave us just a little bit of time to stew on like, ooh, is Betty scary?
Yeah. So that timeline kind of starts with Norm and Chet returning to Vault 32. If you remember, Vault 32 is where they had checked out before and saw all the people had like killed themselves and done crazy shit, and there was dead bodies everywhere. And as they're going back, Norm finds a bunch of dead bodies in front of a Vault 31's door. So he's curious about what's going on here with this Vault 31.
And some of that sexy blood graffiti was like, we know what's in there.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm really curious. I know that you've watched all of it now because you just couldn't hold back.
I could no longer hold back.
I understand. So I'm curious to know if, like, they truly did know what was behind that door.
Right?
Or if it's just, like, crazy people writing stuff on the wall.
Yeah, because that's what you do. You're like, I know what's in there. I know what you're hiding. I know your secret. Because that's how you get people to be like, oh, you knew that I was doing coke off of my sister's ass? Like...
It's a flying spaghetti monster back there. I do think I love this dynamic between Norm and Chet, like how so weak and pansy Chet is, and how Norm is actually kind of coming into his own here, getting a little braver. They return from the vault, and we learn Chet's new name, or his real name.
Ooh, what was it?
It's Chester.
Chester, okay.
Because, like, as they're returning, she's like, hey, Norm and Chester. And I was like, Chester?
See, I was so busy on, like, is he going to have that heart attack that he said he was going to have if someone asks? And, like, oh, they're so covered in dirt. And then they throw out that we've been planting potatoes. And I was like, oh, they're being Samwise.
Oh, yeah. And they're also talking about a plant that's in Fallout 4 that you can harvest. Potatoes. Yes. I kind of think they have this dynamic. It made me think about Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito from Twins, because Norm is so short and Chet is so big. And Chet is like, Arnold Schwarzenegger in that movie was kind of like a pacifist, and so he never like wanted to get into fights, and like Danny DeVito was always like getting him into trouble. So it's kind of a good parallel here. It's
also big dogs and little dogs. That's how they are.
Norm, I don't know if I want to go into Vault 31.
I'll have a heart attack.
So yeah, the next scene in this storyline is when Betty is kind of talking over the intercom. She's telling people to vote for her. And I feel like this is kind of a little bit pushy of her, I would say, if there's two other people trying to become overseer and she's the only one that gets to talk on the intercom and tell people to vote for her. I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah.
Sketchy.
Yeah, that's very not cool. She should have recused herself that day. And the speech, it's so like, on the one hand, it definitely fits the mood of the people in the vault and like, oh, times are changing, things are scary, like someone bust through the one vault that has been safe for all these years. On the other hand, when has civilization ever actually been safe? When has it ever felt that their future wasn't in question? When has there ever been no uncertainty? Like, if you don't have uncertainty, that means you're probably in the upper class and you feel like everything's fine. But yeah, like any day an axe could come at you.
Yeah.
Like a comet can hit you. The uncertainty is always built into the universe. It's the feeling of safety that you get to make for yourself.
Yeah, she's definitely laying it on thick here with the like, I'm your savior kind of talk. And once again, we get to see everyone in the vault kind of coming together. They're doing their voting process. This is going to come out much later, but at our time, we recently went through a voting process here in the United States, and it was really funny. So I don't know if you remember this, Paul, but there was one scene that I pulled from in a previous episode of the guy walking by with a wheelbarrow, walking by Norm, and he has a dead body.
The
and
dead
Norm's
body.
like, how are you today? And he's like everyone else, ding dong, like I'm fucking upset. So that's the same guy who's here talking to the Reg guy, and he's like, so just so you know, I'm gonna vote for Betty. And he's like literally telling him, he's like, well, thanks, but you don't have to explain it to me. That's why there's voters booths. And I feel like, even though this guy isn't a direct Trumper reference, like that's what Trumpers want you to know. They're like going into the voter booths with their MAGA hats, you know?
So that fits too, because some of the verbiage that guy was using was directly paralleling what Betty was saying about, like, you know, when you're this confused and uncertain, you know, you just got to go with Vault 31, like that old adage says, which they don't say in that line, but like they had that line of like, when in doubt, vote 31.
Yeah, and I'm curious what you think about this. Now, it's very much implied that they've all been brainwashed in this vault. And in playing the video games, we know that sometimes they will put things through the vents to like make you think the way that you want, or make you be more susceptible to disease or maybe ideas like this. So not that they show that in this show, but I feel like it could be a possibility that they've been gassed to believe this.
I wasn't planning on talking about this game, like, but how you said it just made me remember a game called We Happy Few. And it's got a lot of the similar vibes. It's got great artwork. It's a small town in England with like the old timey buildings, and everyone has to take a happy drug. And when you're on the happy drug, it's all like 70s vibrant colors. And if you're off the happy drug, people can see it from your face, and you can see it from other people's faces if they're not on it. So you can like report each other. But like, yeah, the happy drugs make you do certain things, and it's a pretty cool game. You can play 4 different storylines, I think, and each one interacts, and I've only played like 2 of them, but it's very Fallout, like, hey, everything's great, but we're also super brainwashed.
Cool. Well, we'll have to check it out, or I'll have to check it out. I certainly think that there's lots of games with that kind of theme, right? And there's a recent Netflix movie that I watched 347. I was like, I just can't do all of this. But it's called, I think, either The Uglies or The Pretties. But basically, the story is about how there's a post-apocalyptic universe and there's one city that's been created where nobody is different. Once you reach a certain age, they make everybody pretty so nobody gets bullied. And it's like a teeny bopper, like YA. And it was just a little too YA for me. Like I couldn't like watch the whole thing. But it sort of had that, like once you became a pretty, you were like brainwashed, you know? So it's definitely a theme that if you're in the future, you're going to get brainwashed by some sort of cult. So I guess we're in the future now because a bunch of people in our country have been brainwashed by a cult leader named Trump. Sorry. I know you're like, if it comes up naturally, Marcy's going to bring it up 80,000 times.
Well, I agree with you. Before you said that part, I was also going to add that by the nature of being in a vault, you got a small community and you've got surveillance kind of necessary to like make sure that the survival stuff stays working. And so the vault conspiracy has all of this extra like ability to, they can listen in on your room and hear you say like, I just don't feel like the weevils are a problem this year, and then make weevils their problem that year so that then they change their vote.
That's true. Like the surveillance part of it is what an overseer does. Like that's their job, is to survey and make sure experiments run, right?
Yeah.
The next part of that storyline, Norm is kind of breaking into or looking up information on a Vault 33 computer, and he's looking up personnel files. At the very beginning of the show, we learned that the different vaults trade individuals for breeding purposes, and he decides to look up which personnel has been overseers for...
Natural question.
Yeah, Vault 33. And it turns out that 31 has this list of personnel that's been traded to 33, which is the vault Norm's from. And every single time somebody gets traded from 31, they become the overseer for 33. So definitely some kind of conspiracy going on. Norm is very suspicious and continues to ask questions, knows he can't ask too many questions. The next kind of scene is we learn that, of course, Betty wins the election, and they're having a big party for her in the corn picnic area. And this is kind of funny. It's just like Norm walks up to her and says, "Congratulations." And then it's an extremely long time of just staring at her.
So awkward. I had to rewatch the scene 3 times to just make sure I caught, like, did he refuse the cake? Like, is that why it was awkward? Nope, he took the cake when she handed it. Is it like, did they know? Did they look at each other and act like they know? Like, not really. It was just really weird and
I don't know what that scene was about. It did seem important. Like, you're just like, okay, what's gonna happen? See, I think it was literally just watching him struggle with whether or not he wants to confront her about it, right?
This was when you're in Fallout and you suddenly have to go to the bathroom, but there's an important dialogue option. And so you go real quick and you come back and then you pick the one that you think is best.
And his was, do not confront the overseer.
Do not confront.
Or he tried and failed.
It could be that, yeah.
That moment, though, definitely tipped her off that even more that he's kind of being a little weird. Even for him.
There's also, I now forget where it fits in, but when he was asking questions and trying not to be too suspicious, he went to Eye Patch. What's her name? Steph. And he's like, was there anything different about your vault? And she was just like, well, the mashed potatoes were better.
Yeah, I think it's interesting who you realize are Vault 31 people, and they're kind of all the badasses of the vault. So right now, without knowing the end, if you don't know the end, it is curious to think about, like, who are these people? Mm-hmm. Why aren't they telling Norm what's going on? Steph, in that moment, which comes up pretty close, so we can just talk about it, because Chet and Norm are talking about that slogan that you mentioned earlier, and then they're kind of, Chet's just like, I want to forget about everything, And he's like, why are we whispering about it if it's not a big deal? And then Steph comes out, and Steph, again, badass. Like, I don't know what it is about that eye patch. I just love that she also has eye patch for every outfit. Like, when she's wearing her vault outfit, it's like a blue eye patch, and it doesn't change her personality at all to have this injury. She hasn't changed a bit. And that's also something that I love about it. But yeah, that moment where he asks her about the mashed potatoes, she does say just before, well, what did your dad say about it? Because she, I think, would have told him if he had picked up on that inflection and that question and said, well, he told me everything about Vault 31. Or he told me a little bit about Vault 31. Yeah, exactly. Wink or whatever.
I can't tell you what he told me.
Yeah. So maybe if he had been a little bit less honest in that moment, he could have gotten more information. But he failed his speech test.
He did.
And Betty then decides to gather everyone together because they're going to talk about the fate of Vault 32, which is where all the people had died, and that's where the raiders had gotten through. And they go into Vault 32, and it's all cleaned up. Like, how the fuck did she make that happen?
Already, everyone's pretty much got their work shifts, so this must have taken a lot of extra shifts or bribes or something to get that much cleanup done.
I wonder if she maybe grabbed all the Vault 31 people, because every 31 person knows the secret. So, but even still, it's not that many people.
Right.
And that's a lot of cleanup in a very short amount of time.
Okay, just going to throw this out there as a possibility. Maybe Betty, being where she was before all the accidents or, the Raider stuff happened, couldn't know that, these people have been dead for a while. But there's like a clean reset button to the vault. So like they've had lots of failed experiments. It's a lot of work to have to clean it up. So just like incinerates everything and then just whoop, here's your stuff. Fresh vault.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's not very many moments in this where I'm like, just suspend your disbelief kind of thing. But this kind of like, I did tick on this.
It got close, yeah. But Norm also was like, you did this really well.
Yeah, and I do like how Norm and Chet were just like, what the fuck? Like, and it's good that Norm isn't the only one. I like that they made Chet his companion in this, so it's not like he's crazy or whatever. He's got a second person to corroborate what he's seen. And she talks about how she wants to resettle Vault 32, and Norm ends up walking up to the overseer's desk at Vault 32 and is just kind of like staring at it, having a flashback of the overseer's dead body that he had seen in that chair. And then Betty sneaks up on him. And again, there's like a really awkward moment here where I can tell, wants to confront her about this. And he does ask her a question. So he asks her, hey, do you know where my mom's Pip-Boy is?
Mm-hmm.
And she says that his mother was buried with it. And so if you recall, in one of the previous episodes, he had found out on the overseer's computer there that Vault 32's door was opened with his mom's Pip-Boy.
Yeah.
And she lies and says that it was buried with his mother and she was there and witnessed it. And I mean, if I was her, this line of questioning would immediately been like, okay, this kid knows something and he's going to be a thorn in my side. And if she really wanted to keep the secret, I mean, Norm better watch his back is all I got to say.
Or she could consider trying to deputize him. But yeah, when she answered the way she did, I was immediately very suspicious, because why would you bury a Pip-Boy when you can't manufacture them anymore? And like, they're so valuable to the vault, and like, you're going to have an unending number of people in the future who are going to need Pip-Boys. Like, you don't bury that. And if you buried it in the vault, then you could go find it and like corroborate the story. And if it's not in the vault, that means Betty was on the surface. So like, there's a lot of holes in just saying that explanation.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, that's the dumbest answer you could have given. Oh, I don't know. I wasn't there when your mom got buried. Like,
Yeah.
the
just say
simplest answer is the best one.
Mhm.
Don't make up details.
Yeah, and you never know what's going to be important. So
That's the end of that storyline, basically. He's got some resolve, I think, at the end of this portion of the episode, where he's obviously going to keep looking into this. I think we've talked in previous episodes about what vaults we liked from the games, but I was always curious about what kind of experiment you might run if you were the overseer.
Oh, what I might run. Okay. So we're bad people, right? We have no ethics, so it's just what I'm curious about.
Sure.
Okay. I don't know. I might be interested in a vault that like is super heavy on technology replacing every part of your life possible. A la like Wall-E.
The Borg.
Yeah, the Borg. Just like how much humanity can you strip away and still have like agents that you can, interact with?
That's hilarious because mine is like the exact opposite. Because I'm like, wouldn't it be interesting? What if you just of course it has to do with dogs, but you have a pack of dogs and humans together in the vault and like see how those two animals live together in this confined space. Do they work together well? Like I don't know. Can you make it so that they can telepathically talk to their dogs? Like, that would be cool.
Get, like, the Up voice box.
Mm-hmm. Or do they become werewolves? Do you make the genetics mix with the canine and the human? Like, I think it'd be really cool if you had a very organic one where by the time people arrived, it's just like completely overgrown with like trees and roots and shrooms and like
the Gaia Vault.
The Gaia Vault. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Hell yeah.
So it's so funny that like we're exact opposite, but it would be cool either way.
Yeah, I mean, mine is definitely like, what is the modern world? What are the problems with the modern world? And would Vault Tech accidentally have stumbled on that if they had advanced Pip-Boy technology where you're always on your Pip-Boy,
Mm-hmm. And you just have like the holographic imaging that you see in movies and stuff.
Or you get that chip that Elon Musk wants everyone to have.
Oh, God. No! All right, so now that we finished up with the Vault storyline, we can move on to the other storyline. So unfortunately, we don't see the ghoul a single time. No Walton Goggins.
No wonder this is the worst of their episodes.
Yeah, I mean, there's not bad episodes in this, but I would say this is one of my least favorite of the episodes.
It's Gogginsless.
Yes, it's because there's no Goggins in it. Where's my Goggins? So this storyline, it's actually the very beginning of the episode. You start with Maximus and Thaddeus, and if you remember before, Maximus has hidden inside of the power armor of his previous mentor, and he's pretending to be Knight Titus.
Yeah.
And it's a cute intro, like Thaddeus is joking. They're kind of joking all around with each other. Immediately, Thaddeus like asks to be branded by Knight Titus, but it's actually Maximus. And so I have a clip for that.
You should brand me. I'm not officially your squire until you brand me.
It's late.
Come on.
You sure? It really hurts.
I want you to. I want you to, please.
All right. Yeah, let's do it. It is your most sacred duty to protect the Brotherhood. After which it is your most sacred duty to protect me, Knight Titus. Do you accept?
Oh, yeah. Bet I do.
Okay, hold still. Almost done. Told ya. Hurts.
Okay. I loved that scene for a lot of reasons. One is it absolutely felt like what two Squire boys who've never actually done anything badass but always dreamed about the badass stuff. They're finally telling their final fight story. They're acting all drunk and like, oh, you should brand me, bro. Maximus is sort of dumb when he does that pledge because he could have made the pledge defend me no matter what. But no, he has to like throw in the wrong name and make it so the pledge doesn't matter.
I mean, Maximus, I have to say, has either so many layers or he's just the dumbest person in the world because I swear to God, I'm just like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, I know that this character is figuring himself out in this show, but I swear he's like, goes from being like a little kid to a sadistic psycho to like a
fanatic, yeah.
I feel like the most convincing of them is his sadistic personality. Like in this scene, the next thing he does is reveal himself to Thaddeus. And I'm like, what the fuck? The moment you brand him, then you decide to tell him? Like, how is he going to trust you after that, you fucking idiot?
Yeah.
Like getting a promise that doesn't mean jack shit. And then like, oh, by the way, I just branded you with this brand. And I'm going to tell you immediately that, like, I'm not the person you thought you were pledging yourself to.
Yep. And so that brings me to the first question I wanted to ask you, Marcy.
Yeah.
So you're a squire. You're just having this good time with your new boss, and you just got branded. And then your knight says, so, before we go back to base, I should tell you something. What the fuck is crossing your mind?
Well, every woman would be like, oh, shit.
The sex talk.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not interested. I have a boyfriend. That's what Thaddeus is thinking. Like, But then, like, Thaddeus is so cute. I hated him. He was such a, like, worm tongue in the very first episode, Thaddeus. And he's, like, been so vulnerable. Like, he doesn't lie. He is more aligned with Lucy than Maximus is. He was honestly beating the shit out of him. Then he honestly tells Titus, Knight Titus, aka Maximus, that he actually kind of was just doing it because that's what happened to him and he felt bad about it. The thing about Maximus is that he doesn't trust anyone ever. He's always in survival mode. And so he uses lies and these promises from people to get his way.
He didn't even reveal it in a way that could be relatable to Thaddeus. Because he's like, Thaddeus said, what did you do? Where's Knight Titus? And Maximus's response isn't, let me tell you what happened. It's, we just need to get our story straight and then it's okay.
Yeah, like, he's like, lie for me.
Yeah.
Why? I'll just tell them and you'll get killed. I mean, I'll be honest. I feel like the trajectory of this story is that Maximus is going to end up being the villain. Based on many of the because he's got a very like childlike personality, and so he has tantrums like a child.
Yes,
and then he has sadistic tendencies. If he thinks he's right, or this is a situation that's making it so that he needs to survive, he's going to do whatever it takes. And the ghoul once again aligns more with Lucy because despite the ghoul being a horrible person who makes her do things, he never lied to her about any of it.
Yeah.
He said, he's like, this is the way of the wasteland. Like, you're going to have to learn to buck up. Like, these are the things that we do. You're going to have to eat human flesh. Like, it's not like he's lying to her about his intentions. He's like, I'm here for the head. I'm going to sell you to this person. Like, he doesn't ever lie to her. He does bad things.
But that's different.
It's different. As you can tell, I'm a little triggered by that because, like, my personality is very much like the truth helps set people free. And
absolutely.
And Maximus is very much a hider of his intentions, which I don't like. So anyway, he tells Thaddeus, and Thaddeus is like, no, I'm not gonna lie for you. And then you see sadistic tendencies come out.
I'm gonna kill you.
Immediately goes into, I'm gonna murder this kid. And great job, Thaddeus. Maximus doesn't know how to play with this toy. He doesn't know how to use the power armor effectively at all. And Thaddeus is like, I'm smarter than this guy. I actually learned stuff in Brotherhood school. and he like rolls underneath the power
That's how he's
armor.
also more aligned with Lucy, is that he knows enough about the schematics to use the machine.
Exactly. Anyway, but this is a cool scene because he's got a little key for the fusion core, and this just makes my little like Fallout gaming heart sing when he removes the fusion core and Maximus is stuck in his power armor. And for me, in the previous games, I told you about how much fiddling I had to do with the fusion core to make sure nobody stole my power armor. So this was kind of fun to see in the actual show.
Hell yeah. Also, what a terrible weakness to build into your power armor is just like one person with the key and you're fully disabled. You can't even climb out of it.
Yeah, I thought that was dumb too. Like, you don't have inside the armor like something that you can do to get yourself out of it. That's stupid. And I didn't even notice until the very end of this particular scene that dog meat was actually with them.
Just watching.
Yeah. And then like you see him follow Thaddeus because Thaddeus picks up the Linus head.
Yeah.
And Dogmeat's like, oh, there goes my guy, my master.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah, Dogmeat follows Thaddeus. It's so funny. I forgot about that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And there's a quick cut to another scene where Maximus has been in the power armor for a while. He's kind of sweating. He's becoming a little delirious. And again, the settings of this show are really good. There's a moment where they zoom out and you're basically watching the power armor from behind, which is how you watch it in a video game. Sometimes you can get into that mode with F to be watching yourself from behind. And these rad roaches arrive and they smell his stank in the power armor. And they start trying to like break in to eat him, and he's freaking out.
As you would.
As you would. And I was going to ask you a quick question about this because this is obviously a situation in which I have a phobia of being like stuck in places, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a particular phobia of anything?
I would never want to be in a tight space underground. Caves are as cool, like super cool things. I love caves, but if there is any amount of constriction there, nobody. I will flail around and accidentally murder people trying to get out, I think.
Yeah, so I like have a story that's not exactly parallel to this, but parallel enough. So I grew up in Alaska, and when you're a little kid in Alaska, your parents put you in like super restrictive clothing. You're wearing a giant snowsuit with like mittens and bunny boots, which are these huge boots that have like no space in them. And
I'm thinking of the Christmas Story where like the little brother's arms couldn't even move.
Exactly. And so we were going on this long trip on a snow machine, aka what the Lower 48 calls a snowmobile. And my dad had this like sleigh that would attach to the back of the snowmobile. And so he had me in that, and then blankets on top of me, and then like a tarp thing over the blankets. So they're trying to keep me warm. Like they're doing the correct parental thing during this trip. But I couldn't really move in it. And I remember just like kind of freaking out, but there's no way to tell my dad, please stop, because you're in the back and he can't hear you. It's a snowmobile.
Yeah, he's got an engine going in his ear.
and then like the bunny boots, now I have this thing with claustrophobia with my feet, where if my feet are restricted, I'm like, gotta get it off my feet. It's not with regular shoes, but if it feels like it's really tight, like I can't handle it.
So like skiing, if you go skiing, you're like, get this fuck off me. Yeah.
Yeah, ski boots. And then if I smell diesel, because it was this diesel snowmobile, it brings me immediately back to that moment. I feel you, Maximus. This is not a good position to be in. So he thinks he's going to get his side ripped out by a rad roach. But Lucy arrives and saves him, like she tends to do for people.
Okay, so this is a moment for me that felt close to breaking my immersion as well. Because I know she's got a tracker on Linus's head, and I know that Linus's head has been not at that location for long enough that like, what's her motivation for going to that specific area? How did she walk up to the tunnel and find him there? Because if she came from the other direction, it would seem like maybe, but I don't know. It's not a big deal, but that was what got it for me the most.
Yeah, it's true. It's one of those moments where you're like, I don't know, like, how did she arrive there? But I also felt like it was a very game moment.
Very game moment. So maybe that's the pass.
Yeah, because she immediately is like, so I'm looking for this head. Like when she saves him. Again, she's so main character. She just like continues to be like a one-track mind. I gotta get this head. This is why I'm getting traumatized is for this, you know? But I love that she's not as stupid as she wants, or not stupid. Lucy is never stupid, naive. She not only says she doesn't trust him the first time, but it takes her a while to, agree to letting him out. And it was really only when he said, I have a rat away in here, he can tell that she's sick with radiation sickness. So he makes so many mistakes. It's like a compulsion for him at this point, I feel like. She asks, like, I don't trust people. She's telling him over and over again, like, lots of bad shit has happened to me. And he's like, no, you can trust me. And she's like, what's your name? And he's like,
Maximus. You're right. There was an awkward pause, too.
Yeah. And then he's like, Night Titus. And I'm like, you fucking douche.
And you're right. He does like a silly little face when he's about to do something dumb. Like he just childs up or something, like puffs out his cheeks. He's like, I'm going to do the thing that the kid in the refrigerator after the nuke would do. That's a reference to his flashbacks.
Yeah. And he's like, sad Maximus. Like, I'm either sad or I'm mad. Like, I can't have real fucking adult emotions here. And again, I can't tell if it's a complicated character or if it's just a dumb character, you know? Like, I'm warring because it does make him an interesting character. Obviously, I'm talking about him a lot because this is a very Maximus episode, but he pisses me off.
It's kind of good that he's in this weird state because like season 2 could really make him a horrible, awful villain, which would be cool. They could do a lot with all of the ambiguity that he's giving us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And again, like she told him that, you know, she's struggling with believing people. And this is where I love Lucy. Like, you're like, yes, you're main character. You have maxed out your stats, bitch. Because she lets him out. He's giving her the rat away. And he's trying to be all like coy and like the Brotherhood has sent me to go get something or whatever. I gotta go. And she's like, so I know you're looking for the head, dumbass. Thank you, Lord. Like, if I believed in Jesus, this would be the moment. Because she isn't dumb. She knows everybody in the waste's looking for it.
She's pretty awesome.
So, yes, this is the moment where she kind of does a little, I guess, history lesson for him about the T-60 power armor. And Paul's going to get into this a little more, but it actually is a power armor that you can find in the game Fallout 4, and then she faints. And so this is where Paul's going to give us a little lessons in lore on power armor or similar kinds of armor that you might find in the real world or in fantasy.
Yeah, a little bit about exoskeletons. So people have been working on artificially enhanced mobility devices since at least the 1890s. The first one that is mentioned uses energy stored in compressed gas bags, which respond to human power, but they're otherwise passive, which I just imagine you've got like Scottish bagpipes and you're just like, burp, burp, burp. It's probably not how it was.
Do you think it was those diving suits that they used to have?
No, this was not, it was specifically not a diving suit. It was like to make you stronger using compressed air. Toot. There's another one called, and I think this is hilarious, the pedomotor. It's a steam-powered, like, from what I understood from the description, just actuated legs that you could walk in that just helped your movement. But yeah, steam-powered was one of the first power suits. Not exactly armor. So then we fast forward to 1959. The author Robert Heinlein wrote a book, Starship Troopers, about a fascist military where all the soldiers carried like portable nukes and they could jump over buildings with their fucking space armor. None of that made it into Starship Troopers, the movie. But that concept actually later fed into, in the 80s through 2005 is when the event happened. There's this combat veteran who ran in the St. Patrick's Day Dash race in Seattle, 2005, in an exoskeleton that he's been designing for decades. And like, he wasn't super fast, but like, he broke his spine in a parachute accident and was using this to run a race. So like, that's fairly literally a part of what this power armor is supposed to be like in the fantasy. And I figured that just you would like that, Marcy, with the medical stuff.
Disabilities. I mean, that's where a lot of these prosthetics and like power stuff is being used, actually, and the technology is being created is for people with disabilities. So
I don't know if it's out now, but before prosthetics started to get really cool, there's this website called God Hates Amputees. And the whole argument was, look, there are other animals out there that can regenerate limbs and we can't. And like, why wouldn't God regenerate limbs if he liked amputees? As kind of a sarcastic way of saying, like, maybe God's not real. But now that there are some such good prosthetics, like, that whole argument is a little bit undermined.
Well, but it's made by humans, not God.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say that sometimes I thought it'd be cool to have my knees chopped off so I could have the fast running legs. And I don't think that's what most amputees throughout history would have said. So in the 60s now, General Electric was working on something called Hardy-Man, which from the schematics that I saw was basically the thing that Ripley used to beat up the Queen in Aliens. Hardy-Man made it so that you could lift something like 1,500 pounds with this big weight scaling factor that it only felt like a couple dozen pounds. It never achieved that goal, and no human ever actually sat in it and operated it because, I'm going to just quote the line here, so there are bugs in the system that caused, quote, violent and uncontrollable motion by the machine when moving both legs simultaneously.
So basically went into seizures anytime it tried to walk.
Yes.
Oh my God, so funny.
So that never got off the ground really, but it was also an early innovation in, I think they call it tactile feedback, not haptic, but like if you lifted 100 pounds, it would feel like 5 pounds. And if you lifted 200, it would feel like 10. Like you could feel the difference even though it was still enhancing it.
Interesting.
But a lot of these research projects for exoskeletons were integral in the study of human movement, and that has all led its way into the development of modern humanoid robots like Atlas. So like all of that stuff is a part of a history of just robotics. In 1985, the Los Alamos project proposed an exoskeleton that is a lot like the powered armor that you would find in Warhammer or Fallout. And it also include brain scanning sensors in the helmet. But when they finished their proposal, they're like, this is way too futuristic. We cannot do this. And it has never been built.
I was reading that they're actually able to make just primitive neurons control electronics. So that combination of biology and electrical things is becoming more advanced.
Hell yeah.
But isn't that crazy? Like a
Super
primitive
crazy.
neuron can respond to a response and like take action without having a brain, like an actual brain telling it what to do. Anyway.
Yeah, it'd be like pulling out your occipital lobe and just be like, all right, respond to light.
Yeah, exactly.
Control something in that response.
Right.
So I thought it would be kind of fun to just go through what to look for. So like if you're watching a sci-fi movie in the future, you can think of this list of things and be like, oh, this is I'm going to just say the Brotherhood of Steel one right now. It's a full body, rigid, passive, hybrid, hydraulic, pneumatic performance military device. So
wow, that's like a wrap.
So the main classification as it goes is what part or parts of the body does it cover? So full body. Structure is a rigid versus soft. So like all power armor that I can think of is usually rigid because they were thinking about bullets bouncing off. I could imagine that like maybe Crisis, because it's all soft and flexible, that wouldn't count as rigid. It would be soft. But soft exoskeletons are also called exosuits, and their whole point is for allowing freer motion. The next one was Action. Action is specifically thought of in terms of active or passive. There's obviously, you could do combos of both and call it hybrid. Literally, the point of passive is that it does not do anything until you, the user, start the motion. So I think Ripley's fits really well with that. She pushes the things to make the arms move. The arms would never move without. A more active system probably has controls and electronics and smart brains, but like you could think that that might be your air system, like if you're in a spacesuit or something. Like there's a lot of things that could be controlled that you don't want to have to be in control of. Power, I didn't really care too much about because it's more for mechanical engineers, but that's like you have a circuitry that does the motion, or hydraulics, which means water pressure, and pneumatics, I think, is air pressure. And then purpose is like, it's either for recovery for medical stuff or for performance. And obviously there's probably plenty of overlap between them, especially in occupational therapy, but like that's like how they're looking at it. And then application is military, clinical, research, industrial, or other.
Or murdering.
Murder, but not military murder.
Just sadistic Maximus, Mad Maximus.
Stomping on feet.
It's really cool that it started so early.
Yeah.
With just simple steam power. So let's refocus back to that scene where Maximus is trying to walk away from Lucy. She tells him that she knows that he's looking for the head as well.
She's told him multiple reasons why she now trusted him, because he could have just murdered her instead of giving the rat away. He could have done something when she passed out. So she's like, here's why I trust you, which I think is a very smart.
Yes. She's very good at coming up with unique, non-violent ways of managing situations, and this is one of those moments. So she's proposing that they become allies in this moment while they're both looking for the head. And she says she doesn't give a shit what's in the head. She just wants to rescue her dad. So if she gives them the head, then the Brotherhood could give her some warriors to go rescue her dad. I've got a clip for that scene where she's trying to convince him.
Oh, hell yeah.
Listen, I have a tracker that'll lead right to that head. Now, seeing as everybody on Earth seems to be after that thing, I'm guessing that's what you're looking for too?
What are you suggesting?
We travel together. We use my tracker to catch up to your squire, get the head, and take it to the Brotherhood. In exchange for my help, then you'll lend me the services of 5 or 6 of your knights to save my father. Look, you could have been lying about the medicine, and you weren't. And you could have killed me when I collapsed back there, and you didn't. I get that trust doesn't come easily up here. But you can trust me. And I'm from a place where the worst someone can do to you is forget to say thank you.
Sounds like a nice way to live.
It is.
That's such a beautiful, like, here's why I think you can trust me. I come from such a naive place that the meanest thing I've ever done
is not say thank you. Obviously, she's putting her trust in the wrong person, in my opinion. Okay, she's got her companion. He meets needs that she doesn't have. Like, yes, she can fight, but he's obviously knows in a situation when to take action, whereas I think she's more likely to use words, which can get her into trouble. So
Also, it didn't start at the end of the clip that you had, but that speech that she had bled into them playing the Battle Hymn of the Republic, which was an slavery abolition, like Civil War song. And that song played in the background during the elections too. And I just felt it was a little bit rousing to have like, yeah, we don't need Confederate ideals in this union.
Yeah, I wish that everybody felt that way.
Yeah.
So they do join up together, and there's some fun moments here where you get Lucy and Maximus kind of talking about their different lifestyles. She starts asking him questions about the surface and their situation, and she talks about her mom. And He doesn't say a single word after she like pours her heart out to him. She kind of looks over at him and he doesn't really say anything, which to me is telling. He is still holding back. He doesn't trust anyone, but she does say a funny thing, which is, so Earth is round, Earth is flat. Where are you guys at on that these days?
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to. Yeah, after all that deep talk about like disagreeing when the war actually happened and yeah, all the heartwarming stuff, it's funny that they ended that way.
So I did have some questions about what they talked about, because they talked about like lasting ideas. It's been 300 years. And I just always wonder, from this point in where we are right now, what's going to last 300 years? Because we have the internet right now with all this knowledge, but there's weird stuff that gets passed on. And it's crazy to me that religion has lasted as long as it has. Like, I just don't understand that. So I'm curious, like, if you think there's any other ideas that you think have staying power.
Okay, I have a sort of cop-out answer that I'm going to give while I'm thinking of my real answer. So the cop-out is, in the realm of statistics and math, there's this concept of the Copernican principle. Copernicus sort of was famous for saying, like, what if we're not in a special period of time? And, like, probabilistically speaking, any given moment isn't that special. You're only in the first 5% of your life for 5 years if you live to be 100, right? So with these 95% confidence intervals, you can be like, all right, if the idea of personal liberty for all people has lasted 500 years, then the odds are pretty good that it will last. And then you can have the bound of like, that's the first 5% or the last 5% of the life. And then say, I think that could last 300 more years for sure. If you just met someone 3 weeks ago, the odds are not great through the Copernican principle that your friendship will last 5 years with just that information. I think... I think guns are still going to exist.
I think D&D is going to still exist.
Fuck yeah, I like your answer.
I'm shocked that it's lasted as long as it has. And the fact that it's, the 80s is when it kind of got started, or late 70s?
Yeah, I'd say that, yeah.
And that's like a good 50 years or more.
So that could get you in the Copernican realm, yeah.
Yeah, like... And it's becoming more popular, like people who you would never think of that would like D&D do. So I'm hopeful that...
And you can sort of sportscast it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a way for people to escape reality, which I think they're going to need. Maybe it'll be a different form of D&D, a VR form or something.
Now, if you're asking what I dearly hope exists in 300 years, I'm going to put myself out there and say, I dearly hope that your average 8-year-old will understand calculus better than your average high schooler today.
Yeah, that's always an interesting thought, isn't it? That as society progresses, the average person should know more than the person from 50 years ago on average, because we know more now.
We know more. We have better tricks and have found what works better. Hopefully we have better systems of education.
I guess the question is, though, like, our brain capacity to learn those things hasn't really changed that much.
Yeah, I just don't think we're at our limits.
So they're kind of like talking philosophical, making jokes. And Maximus, again, is just like constantly lying to her. And there's this really funny scene. That's not really that funny, but like every moment, this is like what makes Fallout, is that there's these serious moments that have silliness as part of it.
Yeah.
So they come across a bridge and are confronted by two strangers on the other side of the bridge.
We'll call it Kid Rock and his girlfriend.
Yes. And Maximus is being very tough, and Lucy is trying to find a solution where guns don't start blazing. And so I have the clip for that scene.
Hell yeah.
There's no one here but us and them. It's not safe. Give me your gun.
They said they're not armed.
They're lying.
You're lying.
What's happening over there? Yeah, we're just being careful. You can come on through.
Are you trying to fuck us?
The gun?
Okay, I think we're all feeling some tension. Yeah? A little stress? So why don't we all take a deep breath?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Okay, we're gonna do this. How about on the count of 3, we all raise up our arms?
We already said we don't have any weapons. And neither do we!
Well, either way, could we just give it a try? Please?
Her desperation.
Please? I don't want to murder you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hands up on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Yay. I thought that musical choice was interesting. The subtitles were like, "This is Lady Fingers," and it showed her finger.
Yeah, it is interesting. And again, it's like a perfect Fallout transition of like this super tense moment. And then they're like, oh, let's like slow it down,
Yeah.
make it seem like it's going good. And then as they're crossing the bridge, they're looking at the strangers, and the woman sees that Lucy has a Pip-Boy on her arm and then smiles big, and she's got these like disgusting rotted out teeth. And then they pull their guns, but Maximus is fast and gets the gun away from Lucy and shoots them, kills the strangers, and gets winged himself with a bullet.
So, yeah, we see that he put all of his skill points into combat, and that's why he wanted to just jump into combat.
Yeah, combat in person, but not in a power armor, which is funny. There's an interesting little statement that he makes as he's rifling through the strangers' clothes and stuff. And he's like, oh, yeah, I should have known. It's fiends.
Fiends. Is that a common term?
No, it's like, is this like a Fallout thing that I never found was fiends? Like, so I think it might be a new term for the show, but apparently it's people that eat other people. And Lucy's like, I hate this world. And I was like, well, you should hate yourself then, because you ate people. Just saying.
Oh.
Come on, Lucy.
Got
Stop
her.
being such a hypocrite.
Yeah. I still just, I want to go back to the moment where she tells everyone to, I think, take a deep breath. And the guy's like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like, imagine someone who's got like a PhD in like psychiatry dropped into this world where you don't even know if literacy exists.
Right.
Like the count of 3 might not be something they're familiar with. They're just familiar with eating people.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right that like that is a common thing that we say now. We know that if you take a deep breath in through your nose and blow out through your mouth, it actually activates a nerve that helps the rest and digest hormone hit your body and make you feel calmer. And that guy's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is not makes sense to me. So yeah, that is like such a really good moment that tells you something about the world without having to tell you in like exposition for an hour long about what the world is like, you know?
Yeah. And so this scene, after the scene where Lucy tries to use charisma and, you know, game theory to try and build alliances with strangers, this is what I think makes this one of the best episodes. Not the most fun to watch, but just the fact that it's dealing with heavy philosophical concepts that like I enjoy, I guess maybe hyper obsessing with, is like building trust when you don't have it. The whole TV show You is about a guy who like puts people in a little prison in his basement and tries to build trust with them so he doesn't have to murder them. And it's fucked up and weird and stupid, but like you can get some thought experiments out of it. And like, yeah, for me, this is like Fallout doing some of that theory crafting.
Sure.
And it fails.
I guess I like it because let's talk about it like it's Star Trek. I think like every episode of Star Trek, they will have some kind of thought experiment, right? And so some moral dilemma. I mean, obviously it's not like being a cannibal, but I think this series is kind of doing that. Every episode you're having to face the question, what would I do in this situation? What is the morally right thing in this moment? And that's what makes Fallout so interesting. And what we've talked about many times is what's interesting in the games that we play is those moral dilemmas. Like it forces you to confront pieces of yourself that in this type of world that we're in now, being white Americans, we don't necessarily have to confront on a daily basis. So yeah, I like that about the show, but I like that it allows it to also be silly in those moments, so you don't feel like the weight of it as hard as you would otherwise.
Absolutely.
And they continue their journey. Once again, we like these shows that have a journey. Maximus and Lucy come across a billboard that says Shady Sands on it. And if you are a Fallout fan, you will know what Shady Sands is immediately when you see it. It was very big in Fallout 1 and 2. It's like the capital of the NCR, New California Republic. And the New California Republic played a big role in those first two Fallout games. They walk forward, and Lucy is just like shocked because it shows that there was a community that was created after the bombs were dropped. And she was like, what do you mean? Like, that's what our whole vault is about, is like reclaiming the waste. I miss Reclamation Day. Like, they literally have a name for it. And it is like every episode, Lucy just has to be bombarded with these like, my whole life was a lie moments.
And like in that case, we don't know how much that lie was known to anyone. It could have just been honest mistakes. It could have been a miscommunication between vaults where they're like, all clear, every vault can open. And then some of them don't get that message. Like, we just can't know right now.
Yeah, I mean, we can know as players of the games that all the vaults didn't have to do with reclaiming the waste. They were just experimental. So,
like my tech one and your Gaia one.
Yeah, exactly. So it is interesting. Like, this was created, Shady Sands was created from Vault 15, where all the people came out, and it was the only vault apparently that was created without like taking over an already desiccated city. Like, they created their own city in that location. So Maximus takes her along as she's reeling over this realization, and then shows her that, well, it's not there anymore. It was bombed out. I mean, again, I feel like in this moment where they come upon the crater that was once Shady Sands, I am struck with how beautiful the CGI is, how wonderful the world building is, how it looks just like you might see something from the video game. It looks just like a video game. So, but better because it looks real. It looks like you could walk into it, right? And she's shocked by it. I can't remember the line that she uses, but I do have a clip from this scene. So let's take a listen.
What happened?
It's the same thing that always happens. Everyone wants to save the world. They disagree on how.
wonder if anyone survived.
I did.
There you go, Maximus, being all complicated.
He has a sad story. Like, he's a survivor. I mean, I think that's where all of these kind of multiple personalities come from, is all he cares about is surviving. He might like Lucy, but in the end, he knows he's probably going to have to do something to her to survive, you know? So he's holding himself back in these moments. And you get a small glimpse of his past where he's in one of those...
It said milk on it. I wrote that he Indiana Jones'd his survival of the nuke.
Yeah. And as he gets out of that milk crate or whatever it was, he goes around the corner and there's a Brotherhood of Steel bro with his power armor. And so he's always idolized the Brotherhood of Steel because they rescued him, right? But he grew up, you know, he was like not even 4 or 5 in that scene. So
definitely not 16. He was definitely not 16 yet. I don't know.
I know Paul has a hard time determining ages, but he was very young. And so if he did grow up with the Brotherhood of Steel, he had no love. Like, it was all just... But you think he'd be better at technology then if he was that young and he grew up with the Brotherhood of Steel? Just saying.
Just saying, dude. Like, read the freaking stuff.
But maybe he didn't actually get rescued by him. Maybe he just saw them arrive. I don't know.
Refugee for another 10 years.
And then I at first thought after he comes back from the flashback that he was like having PTSD or something. I think he kind of was. But Lucy notices that he's bleeding out from the winging of the bullet that he got on the bridge. But it's actually more than a flesh wound. More
than a scratch. Yeah, and so Lucy's like, the head can wait.
Yeah, side quest. So they head into a Vault Tech Medical Laboratories building. And immediately when you see Vault Tech, you're like, this can't be good. Like, something's going down in that building.
But also just like pro tips, go into that building. You're going to get good stuff.
Yes. I love how badass Lucy is because I don't think she gives a shit what other people say. She's just like, I'm going to do this and I'm gone. Like, I'm not, she doesn't even wait for him to say anything. She's like, I'm going in there, bro. Bye. And she looks like she knows what she's doing.
Being decisive is not a problem for her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Maximus is like, ooh, he's doing his little boy act here now. Like, I don't know what to do. Should I be brave or should I be a runaway? Should I be the Sir Knight Robin with the run away?
Bravely bold Sir Robin.
And he decides to follow her. And he's like walking around these creepy halls and walks through this door and goes to grab a handle. And I didn't notice this the first time I watched it, but the handle is actually just a printed on handle to look 3D.
It's such a great trap idea.
It really is. I was just like shocked how good it looked, even like on the screen. Somehow they made it look 3D.
Yeah. And I was thinking about like these people, whoever they are, because we don't know yet, had full control over the lighting. They could have like messed up the glass of the sign that says medical supplies, which is written big and red and obvious. So it's like, hey, come here. Like, it's such a good trap.
It really was. So he gets trapped. And he falls through like a floor trap. And the next scene is he wakes up and he's like in a cell laying on a cot. And his arm has a bandage around it and it's been fixed. And Lucy's standing there and she is as happy as a clam. She is just like, this is great. And she says, we're in the best place in the world. We're in a vault. Woo! Thumbs up.
Thumbs up,
vault
people.
Boy. And that's the end of the episode. So they've been captured, and it's kind of a cool scene when she says that, because you're looking through a window into the vault that they've landed in. And it looks a lot like in the video games. There's like a one-way window that you're looking through and can see people walking by, and kind of look like that. So it was cool.
Yep. And I immediately, at that moment when I watched this the first time, was like, I'm just watching the rest of the show now.
I don't blame you. I think that really it only hurts you to not watch the show. I feel like we don't have to do that again when we're watching shows, because it didn't add as much as it did to just like have you know what's happening.
Because then I could be like, oh my goodness, this is the parking lot that we're going to see in the flashback in the next episode or two.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, I'm with you. Spoilers are awesome, and everyone should always have them all the time. That is the takeaway of this experiment.
Yeah, so I liked the episode, but like I said, I don't think it was my favorite episode. Partially because it was a Maximus centric one, and I'm not a fan of his right now. So, what are your thoughts on takeaways?
I pretty much felt the same until I realized that there was like multiple exercises in how to try and build trust, and both succeeding and failing at it, and then being dropped into this vault where you know that bad shit happens in vaults. It's like, oh, there's going to be a weird take on trust coming up now. And I think the payout for next episode makes it like, this is worth watching for that. But I like this one because I am super into the trust question.
Yeah, and I also feel like it's a necessary episode to get all of our characters to where they need to go. Who are they? What are their motivations? This is like a motivation episode. Norm becomes more solid in his need to figure out Vault 33. Lucy has learned the lessons of the wastes. And Maximus is
being weird.
solidifying himself as kind of like, I'll do whatever it takes to become a Brotherhood of Steel Knight, and if that means lying to do that and to survive, I will. So.
And I think the most important character, aside from Goggins, because there's no development on Goggins here, is that Thaddeus is still alive, and I really want him to replace Maximus.
Oh gosh. What happens to Thaddeus? That poor boy.
Poor boy. I want to see more of him.
All right. Well, the next episode is called The Trap. And if you want to come check us out on social medias, just go to Idle Ride or Idle Ride Podcast on Instagram, Threads, TikTok. I think I'm going to quit all of my Twitter accounts.
Yeah, fuck Twitter.
Because I never really liked the platform anyway, and now Elon Musk is the devil, so...
Devil's actually smart and has ideas, but I agree.
Well...
I agree with you.
You know how I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
He is a horrible human. So, sorry, you probably won't find me there anymore. But I think Threads is actually a really cool social media. It's, in my opinion, got a lot nicer community of people on there, and it's easier to find people that you really like. So join us at those other social medias. All right, well, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.